Coming to you once again on the Sent Podcast, Deacon Steve Splonskowski along with
Brad Gray.
And we are joined today by Sister Christina Marie Neumann. Thank you for joining us today, Sister.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Sister.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're going to start out today, Sister, with your vocation story. So tell our listeners a little bit how you got to be where you are today.
Sure. I'm actually the oldest of 4 children, grew up in the Twin City area in Minnesota, and grew up Catholic and went to Mass every Sunday, but being a sister really wasn't on my radar. I did have 2 great aunts who were sisters. One of them I knew a little bit, and actually right after a visit to one of those sisters, who was at that time in her 80s or so, a time at adoration is what sent me on this journey, because like I said before, it really wasn't on my radar before that time. So I just finished my first year of college, and so then I started looking at religious life and learning more about different communities. I finished college because I wasn't sure where I should be going. I didn't know very much about the life. So I majored in written communications and finished my BA, and then about a year and a half, maybe, after that, I finally found the Sisters in Hankinson, and it seemed like a good fit, and that's where I ended up. So, yeah.
So what was it that attracted you to the sisters?
Well, actually, to backtrack a little bit, I had visited a few different communities, and one of them was in Chicago. And I took the bus out to Chicago, which was an interesting experience, because going through Wisconsin, there were some Amish men on the bus, and it was very apparent that they had just finished doing chores. So it was quite an interesting experience for a young, 20-year-old or whatever. And I was visiting a community there, and right away when I got there, I realized that was not the place for me. But my bus ticket wouldn't take me back home for another couple days. And then I'm in Chicago, I might as well take advantage of it. So I tried to find out other communities that might be of interest there. And I ended up spending the weekend with some Franciscan sisters. So before that, I hadn't really been interested in Franciscans or Benedictines. I had seen some things that didn't really resonate with me very well. And so I wasn't really very open to a Franciscan community. But that weekend was a very nice time. And it made me think, well, maybe Franciscans aren't so bad. And so that opened me, and it was like, actually, there are some things about the Franciscan spirituality that might resonate with me, So I ended up looking at Franciscan communities. I contacted one, and they said, oh, our vocation director is out of the country for the month, so check back later. And I'm like, I've been, on this journey for a few years by now. I don't want to just sit around anymore, I just want to pursue it. So I'm like, okay. So then I kept looking, and I contacted the Sisters in Hankinson. Meanwhile, Sister Jean Louise had gotten my name from some vocation placement resource somehow. So we connected, and next thing I knew, I was on the bus headed to Fargo. So when I got to Hankinson, I don't know. It just seemed like this could be right. This could be the place. But looking back, I guess aspects of the Franciscan spirituality that resonate with me very strongly would be community and also devotion to the Blessed Sacrament. So.
Awesome. So Sister Christina Marie, tell us a little bit about the Sisters of St. Francis of Dillingen, kind of a little bit their history, kind of the charism, and how that ties with you. You got a BA in written communications, and of course we know the Lord, he doesn't miss a beat, right? He has a plan for everything he does. So Tell us how those two came together, the mission and your journey.
So our sisters actually began in 1241. So our congregation has the distinction of being the oldest community of third order regular sisters in continuous existence.
Wow. That's
So
awesome.
our sisters actually started just 15 years after the death of St. Francis. And so they have a very long history. The women who first started the community, actually the count and the bishop, who were a father and son, they gave the women a piece of land and a cabbage patch. And they were to live a communal life to the worship of God and the building up of the people. So they were doing in-home nursing at the time. But one distinction of our community is just openness to the service of the needs of the times and to the church of the times. And So that's important to us. So we're not just a nursing community, not just a teaching community. Over the years and centuries, really, we've done a variety of different apostolates. And that actually really resonates with me, with my background in communication, because like I'm not a nurse. When I was looking, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a teacher, so I don't really feel drawn to an order that just does nursing, just does teaching. To me, communications would pair up nicely with a community that has more of a variety of apostolates. I don't know why I was thinking that, but that's what I was thinking. And so that very much meshed with the Franciscan Sisters in Hankinson and the variety of works that we do and have done. So.
Wonderful. And so as you work with the Sisters of St. Francis, tell us a little bit about how your spirituality has worked with, in conjunction with the spirituality of St. Francis. We know that this year is a really a special Jubilee year, celebrating 8 years since the death of St. Francis.
8 years or 800?
Sorry, 800.
Yeah.
Did I say 8 years?
Thereabouts, yeah.
8 plus
Somewhere
100, they're
in there,
real
yeah.
close. 800 years since the death of St. Francis. Tell us a little bit about how his spirituality has resonated with you.
So like I said, his devotion to the Blessed Sacrament really resonates with me very deeply, because the Eucharist has always been very important to me. I was born right around the feast of Corpus Christi. So it's been like a lifelong connection. Yeah. And St. Francis was very strong about that. Like if he saw places where the Blessed Sacrament wasn't treated with reverence or churches were run down, he didn't like that. And he, spoke out against it. And actually his first work was rebuilding churches. So yeah.
I'm trying to think. Isn't there a great story about St. Francis with a horse or something like that, where he had the farmer or the owner of the horse starve the horse for
St.
something like
Anthony.
I was
Yes.
going to say St. Anthony.
Okay, I'm getting my saints mixed up. Sorry about that.
That's all right. No, there's great stories.
Yeah.
Yes. There was a man who was being like blaspheming the Blessed Sacrament
That's
and
right,
saying, oh, it's not real. And St. Anthony's like, you know what? You starved this donkey for a few days, whatever. I don't know the story that well.
Yeah.
I just did a play about it with mothers and daughters a couple of years ago. But so this donkey hadn't eaten anything. And then St. Anthony came with the Blessed Sacrament. And instead of being like, looking for straw, the donkey actually knelt in reverence.
That's right.
And the man was converted. Yeah.
Yep. So if you go to St. Anthony's here in Fargo, that's what's depicted on the wall
is it? Okay.
behind the tabernacle.
I haven't
They
noticed
have
that.
one of the pictures is the story of the
And he
donkey.
was also another famous Franciscan, right? St. Anthony?
He was. And he was actually lived during the lifetime of St. Francis. So
Okay.
probably a little bit younger than him, but yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
So you have in your community there, sister, you do a lot of retreats in Hankinson
Yes, we
at your retreat center there, and got a lot of great things. Tell us a little bit about what's going on, the events that you've been doing recently.
So I'm not involved in a lot of retreats. Sister Mary Ruth does more retreats in spiritual direction. We do have a retreat coming up that I'm leading in the beginning of March. It's a luncheon retreat, prayer before the crucifix, and it's a luncheon retreat with St. Francis. So we'll delve into St. Francis's spirituality, and along with strong devotion to the Eucharist, which just ties together, is his great devotion for the Passion and his great love for Jesus and all he went through for us. So it's all connected.
Yeah, isn't it from Francis that we both have the Stations of the Cross and the nativity scene? Do those both originate with St. Francis?
The nativity scene, yes. The Stations of the Cross is a little more complex than that. Definitely tied to the Franciscans and promulgated by the Franciscans. But I think there are earlier roots that weren't exactly Franciscan, but there's definitely a strong, strong connection.
Gotcha.
But the prayer that we pray during the stations, we adore you, O Lord Jesus Christ, we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. That is from St. Francis.
Ah, that's awesome.
It's actually an abridged version of a prayer that he prayed. So, yeah.
That's actually a prayer that I pray every time I drive past a church, past a
Yes.
Catholic church. A nice little act of
Yes.
adoration of our Lord.
And his version was, we adore you, O Lord Jesus Christ, here and in all the churches of the world, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
So the connection between the Eucharist and the cross was very strong and very Franciscan. I mean, he really focused on both of those. Yeah.
Excellent. So have you had the chance, sister, to visit a CC or kind of follow up or learn more about St. Francis?
I actually visited a CC shortly after college, before I even came to the convent. My brother was studying abroad in Rome, and so we took a once-in-a-lifetime family trip over to Rome and visited Assisi and some other places in Italy at that time. So, yes. And Assisi was by far my favorite.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Rome was just so busy, and I'm not a big city person. So, I mean, it's wonderful. It's the heart of the church, but I really like Assisi as well. So.
What are some of the things about that journey that with at Assisi that stood out to you? Were you in the chapel of Santa Chiara, or where were you?
We went to St. Francis Basilica, and I don't remember. This was a long time ago, but it was so peaceful and so beautiful. It's just a little mountain town. It's lovely, Just something about it. So,
right, and San Damiano at the bottom of the hill. Did you make the hike down to the bottom of the hill where he actually rebuilt the church there?
We went to the Porziuncola, but I don't think we made it to San Damiano.
Okay.
So.
That's I got the privilege of going to Franciscan University of Steubenville for my undergrad, and they had the replica of the Porziuncola.
Yes.
There's a 24-hour adoration chapel, and that was just like the heartbeat of the campus. Really, is to be able to pop in there and just spend time with Jesus anytime, day or night.
Yes.
Have that Eucharistic devotion that you talked about, Sister.
Yep. Yeah.
It's definitely very rich. One of the things I was thinking of as we were just talking about the pilgrimage too, I believe that there's a component of this special jubilee of St. Francis, that there are a special plenary indulgence in visiting a Franciscan site. Is that right, Sister?
Yes. Yep. So this year, the Pope declared this, or was declared January 10th. So from January 10th of 26 till January 10th of 27, there's a plenary indulgence for pilgrims. And they can take part in Jubilee rites. That'd be one way of fulfilling the requirements for the indulgence, or else just on their own private prayer, meditation, and prayer. And it's kind of spelled out in the document by the penitentiary from Rome. But yeah, so it's not just a Franciscan church. It's very wide open. It's basically any place of worship that has an association with St. Francis. So, for example, St. Anne's Guest Home in Grand Forks, where our sisters serve, or St. Gerard's Community of Care right here in Hankinson, both have a strong association with the Franciscan order. Those could be places of pilgrimage as well.
And certainly if anyone...
Francis, yeah, it's pretty wide open.
Yeah, so if anyone goes on pilgrimage to the St. Francis Retreat Center in this upcoming year, they're going to have the opportunity to get that special plenary indulgence. Yes, and we have made a booklet for our pilgrims who come, just with some prayers in it and everything to guide them through that experience. Yes.
So talk to us, Sister, a little bit more about St. Francis, and you as a sister, you take some vows. I know he had a vow of poverty. Some of the promises that you make as a sister. Talk to us a little bit about those. What do they mean?
Yeah. So definitely for St. Francis, the evangelical counsels were very important: poverty, chastity, and obedience. And it's just interesting, just recently at table, we were talking about the history of the development of those vows. When did people actually start taking those three vows as we see them today? But so the progression in the church, for sure. But yes, we take the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And that's at the core of our religious life, because we're imitating Christ, who is poor, chaste, and obedient. And so in our vows, we devote ourselves, it's a consecration to him and living in imitation of his life. So with the evangelical councils, do they predate St. Francis, or have they come afterwards? Or is that unclear? The Gospels, really. I mean, it's the life of Jesus.
Yeah,
he was poor, chaste, and obedient.
Yep.
But I think the history of religious life really goes strongly back to the desert, the people in the desert, like St. Anthony of the desert, and they would leave everything behind and live a life in solitude. And so that was the beginnings of the life, but it's developed over time. And even the sisters at the beginning of our congregation back in 1241, I don't believe that they took vows right away, at least not as we see them today. So, and I don't know the exact history of that development, but it's been a development over the centuries.
But that was kind of a characteristic of followers of Francis, right? To be
poverty was huge for them.
And what is that? I remember hearing this. I'm sorry, I forget details so quickly. There was what was the original name for the congregation when when St. Francis founded it? It was something like Brothers of the Poor, Little Brothers of the Poor, or something like that.
Well, so there were 3 different orders that were founded. The first order was the Friars, the brothers, and
Okay.
they were called the Friars Minor, or the Lesser Brothers, is what that
Okay.
means. And it's like they're not supposed to be way up here. They're not supposed to be elevated. They're supposed to be humble and poor and among the least. So they were called the Lesser Brothers. And then the Order of St. Clair, which is the second order, they were called the Poor Ladies originally. So, that poverty and that minority are very important in the Franciscan spirituality. And then we belong to the third order, which was some people were not religious. They were not friars or nuns, but they wanted to live St. Francis's spirit. And so he wrote a rule for them. And that's the third order. And the third order actually has 2 main branches. There's the third order regular, to which I belong and our sisters belong. And then there's the third order secular. And those are people who may be married, maybe single. They live a Franciscan spirituality and they make a promise, but they don't actually take the vows. So it's a different status in the church, but it's still very much part of the church.
Are there lay people around the area that are affiliated with that secular order?
Yes, there is a group in West Fargo that's just actually, there was a group in Grand Forks. I was spiritual assistant for them for 12 years and now is moving south. They started a new fraternity down there, but the 2 have merged now or are in the process. I don't know the exact dynamics. I'm not involved anymore. Sister Mary Ruth is. But yes, there's a group in West Fargo.
So will they have like periodic meetings then, or what does that even look like?
They have monthly meetings. So in my experience, we had a time of prayer together. We had business meeting, formation, fellowship, and usually some service outside of the regular meeting time. So yes.
Interesting.
Sister, do you have you being part of the Franciscan community, do you have a favorite story or legend about St. Francis that you often go back to that kind of helps you in your meditation or your prayer?
Not off the top. I mean, there's a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Wolf of Gubbio, which is always fun. Do you know that story?
No, tell us.
No, tell us the story.
So there was once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a wolf that was terrorizing this community, the town of Gubbio. It was destroying people's livestock and even killing people. It was just terrible. The people didn't know what to do. So they got St. Francis involved and they said, Francis, can you help us? This wolf is destroying our town. So Francis went and he had a little chat with the wolf. And he said, Brother Wolf, you really shouldn't be doing all these terrible things to these people. You should be kind to them and not killing their chickens. And he said, I promise you that if you behave yourself and you don't kill their chickens and you don't kill their babies anymore and you're a good wolf, they will feed you. So then the wolf agreed and they shook paw in hand and had this agreement. Yeah. And so Francis told the townspeople, okay, I had a talk with Brother Wolf and he's going to behave and be nice, but you got to feed him. So they took care, the townspeople lived up to their end of the bargain and they took care of the wolf, gave him food every day, and he didn't kill their chickens or their babies. That's an ad-lib version of it. I haven't read it recently, but that's the gist of it. So
that is one of the kind of the unique things about St. Francis's spirituality too, is he saw this interconnectedness with nature, with all of creation, right? Like what was it, brother, sun, and
Sister Moon.
Sister Moon. Like he had a sense like we all share this aspect of really coming from the mind and heart of God. Right.
And it wasn't centered around, the creation is so wonderful for itself. It's the creation is a gift of God, and it's a representation to us of God's goodness. It's given to us as a gift from God. So it's all pointing back to him.
So it has its own dignity. I gotta confess, I'm always conflicted with this when it comes to summertime in our area and Brother Mosquito comes out. And I don't know what Francis would have thought about the actions I might take toward Brother Mosquito.
You got to feed him. If you feed Brother Mosquito, he won't eat you.
I'm not convinced I'm in favor of that.
Well, I think that shows too the spirituality of St. Francis. He was so simple and so trusting of the Lord's goodness that he was able to communicate with nature, right? He was with
And as you said, sister, he really saw God in everything, right? Like everything was a lens to see the divine, right?
I guess you could put it that way. Yeah, it was, and his gratitude and his, right. Like we said, it's not just because this thing, this created thing is so wonderful of itself, but it's a gift from God, and it reminds us of God's goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I think historically too, if we want to look at the church and the timing of St. Francis, there was kind of a heresy going on. I believe it was Manichaeism or Albigensianism, where that sense that the human body was evil, and that's why they didn't even want to have. You couldn't depict Jesus, you couldn't depict God, and that's where St. Francis came in with the nativity scene and saying that we really can. We recognize that God is both. Jesus is both God and man. And so there's
Right.
a beauty in this creation that God has made for us. And he kind of helped really bring the church back to its senses after that kind of the heretical period of really trying to separate Jesus's divinity and humanity. Right, sister?
Right. So the incarnation is integral to Franciscan spirituality. We mentioned the cross and the Eucharist, but we talk about the crib, the cross, and the Eucharist as the three loves of St. Francis. And all three are so key to his spirituality and to ours.
And yet it was one where I think he had a sense too of like the need to kind of subdue the desires of the flesh, right? I remember hearing the story about how he was tempted and threw himself into the rose bush, right? To kind of bring those errant desires toward a sort of spiritual sanity, right?
He really had a very strong mortification and penance. He didn't just have Lent, he had a few periods throughout the year where he would go on a fast. So yes. Yeah,
it's well, I mean, one of my favorite stories is when he felt he was called to start this order, and he goes to Rome and visits with the Pope, and he comes as this beggar, right? And the Pope's like, okay, who's it? He actually, I think the story goes, had been sleeping in the pigsty before, so he and his brother kind of they stomped like pigs, and the Pope's like, you know what, I'll pray about it, but it's like one of those, I'll pray about it so that you're not really going to hear background. But that evening, the Pope had a vision in his dream, and he saw the church was falling apart, and there was one man standing there holding up the church. And then when he saw his face, it was that beggar. And of course, if you go to Rome and you stand outside St. John Lateran Church, there's a statue of Francis. And if you step back far enough, it looks like he's holding up the church, the front of St. John Lateran, which is basically the cathedral of the Pope of Rome. It's the church of the Pope of Rome, the Bishop of Rome. So that's kind of my favorite story, where in a sense the Lord prepared Francis for this conversation, and he prepares the Pope for this conversation, and then they come together and realize the Lord wants this, but he's prepared us both for this encounter.
Yes. But that also points to Francis's great respect for the church, for the hierarchy, for the Pope, and for priests also. And that's also very key to his spirituality. He didn't just go decide he's going to start this order. He went to Rome and asked the Pope's blessing on it.
Absolutely. And of course, one of my favorite things too also is that St. Francis of Assisi was not a priest, he's a deacon. He was still had impact in the church, one of those early deacons in the church. And so a great a model for all of us deacons in the church.
Was it out of a kind of a desire, a humility that he thought that he wasn't really?
I think so.
Yeah. Especially with the Eucharist. He had a great love for the Eucharist and didn't find himself worthy. Of course, he also later in life then received the stigmata.
Yes.
And I believe don't you guys have at the convent there, you have a picture, right, of the different places, activities in his life that depicts that right outside the chapel, I believe.
Yes, that cross we have. Yes, that's really a treasure.
So the major events in his life.
It's huge. It takes up the whole wall from ceiling to floor, not the whole wall, but from ceiling to floor, and there's different panels, and it's a ceramic cross. It's the only one left in the world, actually. There were two made of that model, and one was destroyed in World War II. But yes, it depicts him with a leper, it depicts him with a stigmata. It's just different scenes from his life are shown in those panels. So it's very nice.
The stigmata is certainly one that is mystifying to a secular world, right? Could you just share a little bit of that story? What was the genesis? Because he was the first stigmatist, right?
First recorded, yeah.
Okay.
So he was praying up on Mount Laverna and received the wounds of Christ. There's a little bit of ambiguity between how it happened. There was like a seraph involved that he saw, and so he received the wounds of Jesus in his own hands and feet and side. But that was about I think I want to say like 3 years before he died. I'm not exactly certain.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember
But he
hearing.
could go up to the mountain and pray, and have his time of solitude and prayer. So,
Is it accurate that I remember hearing something about he had asked to know the love that Jesus felt on the cross and the pain that he felt on the cross?
something like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not as well versed in it as I should
Sure,
be. So
sure.
yeah. Hopefully after this year I'll be more fresh on all this.
Yeah, and I forget details too. I always remember like there's this story, but I don't remember who
Yeah.
it was.
Which saint? Which Franciscan
But yeah,
saint?
was it St. Francis or was it Padre Pio? I remember hearing about someone where the wounds of the stigmata, the wounds in the hands and feet and side, healed after they died. Was that St. Francis? It might have been Padre Pio. That it
Might
was
have
something.
been Padre Pio. I'm not certain. Yeah, it might have been. I want to say Padre Pio, but I'm not 100%.
Oh, I
sure.
think that'd be more likely because I believe that St. Francis, as soon as he died, they encased him in concrete because he did not want anyone to take his body. Now, of course, this year, his bones are on display, so I think they got him out of the concrete. But unfortunately, during that time of the church, if you died, people would come take parts of your body
sure.
quickly. So,
Yes.
so they
Little crafty jackhammering is
they
being done.
encased him
Okay.
quickly so that he would remain. But
Wow.
his remains are on display this year, I
Yes.
believe in that. So for that. So any other thoughts, sisters, you want to share with us about the things that are going on in Hankinson? How do people come visit? What are some
Well, the word is just starting to get out now, so we haven't had a lot of extra visitors yet. We have the parish, St. Phil's Parish, it's having mass here regularly because of the fire in their own church. But aside from that, we're looking forward to having people come. We have our normal summer schedule going on, our upcoming schedule with our mother-daughter days. We have 2 of those coming up, one June, one July, and then we have a come and see weekend in March, June, and August. So we have those events as normal. And then Sister Mary Ruth offers days of reflection the third Saturday of each month. And so it's centering around a Franciscan theme this year. So the March one will be kind of on the Triduum, leading up to Holy Week. And then there'll be April and May as well. So yeah, much of the same routine events are happening. Now, next October is the Feast of St. Francis, and we always celebrate the Transitus on the night before, which is actually the day that he died, the night that he died. And it's a special prayer service honoring his passing into eternal life. So we're getting ready to celebrate the Transitus and a special mass on his feast day. And I hear that the bishop will be coming for one or the other of those events. So it'll be a big celebration.
So how do people, best way for people to find out about events that are going on in Hankinson?
Sure. So they can always go on our website, sfcretreats.org, St. Francis Convent, basically, retreats.org. That would be for the retreat center events. And then about our religious community in general, it'd be ndfranciscans.org are the 2 websites, or they can call us. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Sister Christina, for taking the time to join us today and
Thank
share
you.
your story and
Yeah.
talk with us a little bit
And
about
thank
St.
you for
Francis.
your yes to Jesus, for being a witness to all of us of that final marriage, what we call the eschatological marriage that we're all destined for.
Thank you.
All right. Well, folks, again, visiting here with Sister Christina Marie Neumann from Hankinson Sister, the Dillingham Sisters in Hankinson, North Dakota. Check it out at the website there, as she mentioned there, sfc.org.
Retreats.org.
sfcretreats.org. Again, Brad, thanks for joining.
Deacon Steve.
All right. And this our Sent podcast. We'll be sending out to you, as always, go and announce the gospel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.